On March 2nd, 1991, the highly controversial and one-sided Battle of Rumalia took place. The controversy stemming from the ceasefire that was put into place 2 days prior. Elements of the 24th Infantry Division under General Barry McCaffrey attacked and devastated a large column of Iraqi Republican Guard armored forces near the oil fields of Rumalia. Let's take a closer look as something tanky this way comes. Hello and welcome to Something This Way Comes. I'm Andrew, and with me is the silent as always Frank D. Reaper. Today we are looking at the Battle of Rumalia, the last tank-on-tank battle in the Gulf War and possibly the last large-scale armor engagement of the 20th century. It sparked controversy after taking place after the ceasefire was called into effect. Under the ceasefire, U.S.-led coalition forces were only allowed to return fire if fired upon. After the Highway of Death incident, the 24th Infantry Division moved east towards Basra, along with the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment, providing flank security to their southern flank. Task Force Tuskers Battalion, consisting of 2 M1A1 companies, 2 M2 Bradley Infantry companies, an engineer company, and headquarters company, followed behind 1st Brigade, which was 2 infantry battalions, following the remnants of the 1st Hammurabi Division that were bottled up near Basra. At 7 a.m. the morning of the 2nd, a column of T-72s and BMPs from the 1st Hammurabi Division ran into some scouts from 2nd Battalion and opened fire. At this point, it is up for debate on whether or not the Iraqis knew there was a ceasefire in effect or even who fired first. After a brief firefight, the scouts overran a dismounted Iraqi RPG team, but then reached their limit of advance. The 2nd Battalion moved their companies forward and returned fire. Since the ceasefire allowed return fire once fired upon, the 24th Infantry Division launched a counter-attack with its 1st Battalion. While the battalion prepared to attack, a squadron of AH-64 from the 24th Aviation Regiment and artillery would strike the convoy first. Then the Tuskers would move in to finish off the convoy from the ground. At 8:30, the Apaches began their attack while the artillery launched scatterable munitions on the roadway, turning it into an inescapable minefield, slowing the column's movement. The Iraqis were packed in tight, jammed up together for miles as the Apaches swooped in. The Apaches let loose with over 100 Hellfire missiles and thousands of 30mm shells on the Iraqis. Munitions expended and low on fuel, they returned to base, leaving over 120 destroyed vehicles in their wake. At 10:15, the Tuskers moved into the attack position just behind the 2nd Battalion. The 2nd Battalion was in a box formation with tank teams Cobra and Anvil on the front 2 corners, each team consisting of 10 Abrams and 4 M2 Bradleys, and its 2 mechanized teams, All Beef and Charlie Mike, consisting of a mix of 10 M2 Bradleys and 4 Abrams on their rear corners. At 10:45, the orders came and the Tuskers leapt into action. As the task force advanced on the Iraqis, the open flat desert turned to a marshy oil field dotted with pipelines as they veered north toward the causeway. They were forced into staggered columns once on the roads. In the causeway area, the road became diamond-shaped, with railroad tracks at the south end and the bridge over the Euphrates River at the north end. A single intersection at the railroad crossing created a natural choke point before splitting into 3 roads leading north to the Causeway Bridge. The task force split up on these roads, with Cobra and Charlie Mike taking the left-hand path and Anvil and All Beef taking the right. Once past the checkpoint, smoke on the horizon marked the column with the effectiveness of the Apaches and artillery. Anvil was traveling forward on a road raised roughly 4 feet above the surrounding mud flats when they ran into several Iraqi trucks and a BMP abandoned at odd angles on the road. The lead tank platoon opened fire on the vehicles, causing the BMP to burst into flames and a truck to explode. After 2nd Platoon passed the burning BMP, another truck was spotted. The last tank in the platoon turned to destroy it. As machine gun fire tore through the truck, it exploded, causing a secondary explosion in a truck next to another platoon's tank. Tank A-22 caught fire when burning debris dropped into its open hatches and the internal fire extinguisher failed to put out the fire. After being ordered to abandon the tank, the crew took cover as ammunition from the truck cooked off in the heat. The rest of the platoon tried to save the burning A-22 but failed. It was decided any remaining trucks would be left for the engineers to clear and that A-22 would have to be destroyed. After this, Anvil and Cobra teams swept through, destroying any tanks and BMPs they came across, leaving the trucks for the engineers to blow once the area was secured. By 3 p.m., the companies had reached the beginning of the causeway and could not proceed further. They turned to round up any POWs and take care of their wounded. By the end of the attack, the 24th Infantry Division had destroyed over 30 Iraqi tanks, 33 artillery pieces, 56 armored vehicles, 486 trucks, and roughly 200 Iraqi soldiers killed and 89 taken POW. The 24th Infantry Division had taken only 1 seriously wounded in the fight and that 1 single tank destroyed by fire. The day after the battle, peace talks were held in Safwan. The battle would cause a heated debate on whether or not General McCaffrey was justified in his actions to destroy the column. McCaffrey would later be twice exonerated, once by an Army inquiry, and again by the U.S. Congress, who could not find any fault in his actions. Task Force Tusker would receive the Valorous Unit Award, the second highest award an Army unit can receive after the Presidential Unit Citation, for extraordinary heroism while engaged in military action against Iraqi ground forces on the 25th of February and March 2nd, 1991. On February 26th, Task Force Tusker attacked entrenched Iraqi forces to seize Battle Position 143, which severed the Iraqi Euphrates River Valley line of communications into the Kuwait Theater of Operations and destroyed major combat elements of the elite 26th Commando Brigade. On March 2nd, while serving as a reserve force for 1st Brigade in defensive positions along Highway 8, the task force attacked into enemy positions, completing the destruction of the 1st Hammurabi Division and remnants of several other Republican Guard command divisions. Their exceptional gallantry and valor played significantly into the 24th's successful offensive operations in Iraq. 1st Battalion, 24th Aviation Regiment also received the Valorous Unit Citation for their actions on March 2nd in the Rumalia oil fields. The Apache Battalion responded quickly to reports of a large armored enemy force moving towards the 24th Infantry Division's security zone from the east. Coordinating with the ground commander, they established a battle position to the northwest of the oil fields, cutting the enemy's escape route across the Hammer Causeway. The swift coordination and rotation of Apache companies into the battle space allowed them to hit the enemy force with an assortment of 30mm shells, 2.75-inch rockets, and Hellfire missiles. This overwhelming display of American firepower set them up for a swift counterattack by armored ground forces. Within hours, the attack destroyed 32 tanks, 49 BMPs, 37 trucks, 8 Frog missile launchers, numerous artillery pieces, anti-aircraft guns, and support vehicles. And that was the Battle of Rumalia. Thank you for listening, and if you like the show, please consider leaving a rating or review on your app of choice. Any questions or comments can be sent directly to podsomething@gmail.com. And be sure to come back for the next episode where we take a break from war stories to look at another disaster. Thank you and goodbye.